welcome to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom with Ryan. My name is Ryan Shevchuk, and I am the owner of Accessible America here in Verona, Pennsylvania. This is a weekly series where we cover different topics in the home accessibility industry, including products, services, and resources that may be valuable to the people of Western Pennsylvania and really anyone who comes across this video. So for this week's topic, we're going to cover something that you probably experience pretty frequently in your daily life, but don't give a whole lot of thought to. And that product is a ramp. With any ramp, it's going to fall into one of three general categories: permanent, modular, or portable. And we're going to only talk about the first two categories today. But before I get into what separates a permanent from a modular ramp, I want to talk about some consistencies that you're going to find regardless of what type of ramp that you come across. So the first important detail for any ramp, and especially if you are building a ramp, is that for every inch of rise, it is required that you have 1 foot of ramp. So an easy way to think about this is if the height from the ground to your door is 1 foot, 12 inches, that means that you will need to have a minimum of 12 feet of ramp. And the reason for this is because we want the ramp to be safe, of course, for the individual using it, but we also want it to be easy enough for someone in a manual wheelchair to be able to get up that ramp without too much stress. So the ramp being 12 feet for every 1 inch of rise brings it up to about a 4.76 degree slope, which again is very safe and very comfortable. The second sort of important detail to remember about any ramp that you find is that the maximum length of any one inclined ramp section can only be 30 feet long. So what this means is that for any ramp that's going to be over 30 feet in overall length, you need to have at least one intermittent flat level landing in between. So you can have a ramp that's 60, 70, 80 feet long, but after the first 30 feet of ramp, you need to have an intermittent landing, and then another 30 feet of ramp, and then another intermittent landing, etc. And again, this is really to give the user of a manual wheelchair a rest in between and to create a safe environment so that they don't continue to roll backwards in the event of some sort of an accident or emergency. The next thing that you're going to find that's consistent across the board is that every ramp is required to be a minimum of 36 inches wide. Again, this is also required for commercial doorways to be a minimum of 36 inches wide for entry. And again, the ramp has to match that. So a minimum of 36 inches in width. The fourth thing is that any ramp that's covering a span of 6 inches or more. So if you have a rise into a structure over 6 inches high, it is also required that that ramp have handrails. And along with those handrails, there's also a requirement that the ramp have edge protection at the bottom. And what that is essentially at least a 12-inch piece of wood or metal that prevents someone using a cane or crutches who are using that ramp from inadvertently slipping off the ramp. So it essentially contains the size of that ramp between handrails and the edge protection. And again, so these things are considered mandatory across the board, no matter what kind of ramp that you find. And it segues into the two different types of ramps that I wanted to talk about today, which are your permanent ramps and your modular ramps. Now with a permanent ramp, more often than not, you're going to find these either made of concrete or wood. Concrete ramps are more often than not going to be into commercial structures such as grocery stores or post offices. Anytime there's an existing structure that they need to then build a ramp to make it accessible, more than likely it's going to be made out of concrete. However, it can also be made out of wood. And wood ramps are really going to be more common in a residential setting, especially when a DIYer or homeowner is going to build that ramp themselves. And I, for one, am a big fan of people that build ramps themselves. I think it's a great way for homeowners to be able to save money as long as they are following the requirements that we talked about earlier in terms of the slope of the ramp, the handrails, so on and so forth. Another thing to think about with permanent ramps and with your modular ramps is the surface of the ramp itself. We want this surface to be anti-slip or anti-skid. Now they do make anti-skid tapes or paints that you can often find on your wood ramps, but with your modular ramps, that's usually going to be already built into the decking or the surface of the ramp. So with a modular ramp, these are more often than not going to be made of aluminum. And what's really advantageous about your modular ramps is that they can easily be disassembled and removed and even reused once they are no longer needed. So you'll see an aluminum ramp that will again have handrails, spindles, it'll have your edge guards, and a different type of decking depending on what type of anti-skid surface you're interested in. What's great about modular ramps, especially or in particular the decking on them, is that they can be a ribbed aluminum, which is great for anti-skid. They can be a composite or synthetic material that again has an anti-skid material on them. Or they can even be an expanded metal, which is really great for prohibiting or inhibiting precipitation from accumulating on the ramp. So in an environment like here in Pittsburgh, where today in April it is snowing, it is a really nice feature to not have that snow accumulating on a ramp. And so an expanded metal type of a decking would be really convenient. But no matter what that decking material is, again, we want to make sure that it's anti-skid so that it is safe for both individuals in wheelchairs and walkers who are using that ramp. Safety, as it is with all of the products that we serve or sell or install, safety is really always going to be our number one priority. So again, in your daily life, you're going to run into permanently built ramps. You're going to see modular ramps. And hopefully with a little bit of this knowledge that I've given you today, you're going to take a different look or a different view at the ramps. And of course, if you're in need of a ramp at your own home or your own place of business, we would be happy to talk you through that process a little bit. And that's pretty much it for this week's topic. If there's any other topics that you would like to see covered, any questions specific to ramps or other areas of home accessibility that you would like us to answer, we would be more than happy to talk with you. And until next week, we wish you all the very best. And want you to remember that here at Accessible America, enhancing your abilities is our passion, because we believe that you can. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.